Well, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Tommy Hensel and this is a Wednesday edition of Tasty Tuesdays. I was so proud of myself yesterday. In the morning, I prepped everything for the demo, knowing I was going to do it at 6 p.m. Central. I had everything ready, went to work and thought, okay, I've got it all ready. All I have to do is come home, press a few buttons, and voila, I'd be on the air. So I get home from work at about 4:45, plenty of time to get it all together. And on one of the hottest days of the year, my air conditioning had gone off. It was about 80 degrees in my house. So I'm fighting with the air conditioning, trying to figure out why it's not working. And then it occurred to me that it was kind of dark in my apartment. And I realized that the electricity was out. So I popped on my phone, checked the website for the utility company, and discovered that there were about 1,000 people in my neighborhood without power, and they didn't expect it to come on until maybe 11:30 that night. So clearly, Tasty Tuesdays was not going to happen live. So I canceled the broadcast, took myself out to a really nice meal at a local restaurant with plenty of air conditioning, and luckily the air conditioning and the electricity came back on before I got back from the restaurant. So it wasn't too uncomfortable of a night. But because I had prepped everything, I knew I was going to have to make this recipe anyway. So I figured I would just do a Wednesday edition of Tasty Tuesdays. So here I am on a Wednesday with my Tasty Tuesdays. And this is a really clean, easy, simple recipe that anyone can make. Now, here in the upper Midwest, it's late summer and everybody's gardens are exploding. And I think if any of us see another zucchini, we might scream. But one of the other things that seems to be growing prolifically, at least in my garden right now, are cucumbers. And so this is a great way to use up fresh cucumbers before they go bad. Now, I'm going to be showing you how to make a simple version of what's called freezer pickles. Now, if you put that into your favorite search engine, you're going to discover lots of recipes. And if you're into canning or pickling, there's a lot of complicated recipes out there. And they might have ingredients like mustard seeds and celery seeds and certain other herbs and spices that you don't necessarily always keep on hand in your pantry. What I love about the recipe I'm going to show you now is that it only requires 4 ingredients: cucumbers, and then 3 other things that everyone has in their pantry. So we're going to start first with the cucumbers. Yesterday, I sliced 2 really large cucumbers from the garden, and it yielded 6 cups of sliced cucumbers. Now, I used the 2 millimeter setting on my mandolin. If you like it thinner, go for 1 millimeter, because then they're like wafer thin. They're wafer thin cucumbers. But I tend to like just a little bit more of a crunch in my pickles. Don't go any thicker than 2 millimeters though, because if you go thicker, you're going to probably find that it doesn't really turn out as great as you might like it to turn out. So anyway, this is 6 cups of cucumbers that have been sliced thinly, 2 millimeters in my case. I then took about 1.5 tablespoons of salt, sprinkled it on the cucumbers, mixed it all together, and put them in a strainer. And I let them strain for about 3 hours. So you periodically go mix them around, trying to get some of the excess moisture out and get the cucumbers ready kind of for pickling. But the salt helps. Now, cucumbers and salt, those are our first 2 ingredients. Pretty much, if you've got a cucumber, you've probably got salt in your house somewhere. Now, the next 2 ingredients are vinegar and sugar. That's it. Now, today, I'm using 3/4 of a cup of white vinegar and 1/2 cup of sugar. So here's kind of the rule of thumb that I've come up with for my own taste palette. For every 4 cups of sliced cucumbers, you would use about a tablespoon of salt in the first part of the preparation, and then about 1/2 cup of sugar and a little bit less, sorry, 1/2 cup of vinegar, and then a little bit less than 1/3 of a cup of sugar. That tends to be a great balance for me. Now, I've had great luck using other kinds of vinegar, apple cider vinegar, wine vinegar, both red and white wine. Rice vinegar works well, but I find for a nice, crisp, clean taste, distilled white vinegar is a great way to go. So I've got my cucumbers, got my vinegar. I'm going to put the 1/2 cup of sugar in and mix it up. Now, your goal here is to get the sugar to dissolve in the water. And it might take a little bit of mixing for that to happen. All right. I'm mixing furiously. There we go. That's probably mixed enough. Now, I'm going to pour the vinegar and sugar mixture over the 6 cups. There's a little bit of sugar left. I didn't get it all, so I'm going to put that in there. There we are. And I'm going to put just a titch of water in there to get the rest of the sugar out. Now, I've now just mixed these very, very simple ingredients into the cucumbers. So that's it to start with. Now, they're called freezer pickles, obviously, because they're going to store in the freezer. And one of the reasons I love this recipe is that once it's made and you freeze them, they will last for months. I had some recently that I had made about 4 months ago. And what's great about it, the magic of science, I guess, is that they retain their crispness. So even after months in the freezer, when you take them out and thaw them, they still have a crisp crunch to them, which I love. So I've now mixed that together. Now, what I prefer to do, although some recipes may tell you differently, is now that I've got those in the bowl, I am going to put a top on it and stick it in the refrigerator overnight. And what I will do is I'll stir it maybe 2 or 3 times. Now, how to store them once they're made. So after they've been in the refrigerator for a few hours or overnight, bring them out. And this is how I like to freeze them. I take the snack size of a bag. Now, this is not a freezer bag, so so stick with me because you're going to freeze it initially, but then you're going to put it in something else. So I use the snack size. This is about a cup. When they're ready, you put them in the snack bag and close it and sort of flatten it out and get as much air out as possible. Once you've got all of your pickles into these little bags, put them on a baking sheet and stick them in the freezer to freeze. And then once they've frozen, bring them out and then get a gallon-sized freezer bag and put them all in the gallon-sized freezer bag and seal that up. That way they're protected enough from the cold of the freezer that they're not going to get freezer burn because they're in a freezer bag. But they're in these really nice 1 cup portions, which means you can take one out. It's enough for 2 people as a side dish, or if you're going to use it as a relish, let's say on hamburgers or hot dogs or something like that, it's a great amount to put in a bowl. And you can take out more than one, but I like keeping them in small batches because I live alone, and so cooking for myself, I don't want to thaw out a huge amount of stuff and then have it go bad. So that, my friends, is probably one of the quickest and easiest recipes that I have ever created for myself, the freezer pickles. And like I said, you can find more complicated versions. And if you like that and you happen to have things like mustard seeds, celery seeds, other things, feel free to throw all that in, experiment with different kinds of vinegar. But for the quickest, easy way to use up those cucumbers, almost everybody is going to have sugar, salt, and vinegar in their pantry without having to rush out and buy anything. So just clean the cucumbers well. I don't peel them. I like to have the peel on my pickles, but if you want to peel them. Slice them very thin, 1 millimeter or up to 2. You might be able to get away with 3, but honestly, I would keep it as 1 or 2 if you want to. Mix together the very simple ingredients of vinegar and sugar in whatever combination you like, but I tend to like about a half a cup of vinegar to just under a third of a cup of sugar for every 4 cups of product. Many of the recipes you'll find online will also tell you to add sliced onions. I'm allergic to raw onions, so they're not going in my pickles, but you count that in the quantity. So you're basically looking for about 4 cups of product for each 1 tablespoon of salt, half a cup of vinegar, and about a third of a cup of sugar. So simple, easy recipes. So I hope that you will continue to join me on these, well, this is a Wednesday, but on my normal Tasty Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Central each Tuesday. Also on Thursdays at 6 p.m., I am doing what I call Thirsty Thursdays, where I focus on a cocktail and some information about wine. So tomorrow for my Thirsty Thursday, although I think I mentioned in my broadcast when I was putting it online that I was going to do another gin-based cocktail. I think I'm not. I think tomorrow I'm going to do a rye-based cocktail, which I love. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some wine tips that might help you as you're moving forward pairing food and wine. So thank you for tuning in if you're live. And if you are watching this later, thank you for watching it later. I do hope that everyone will join my YouTube channel, which is currently on the bottom of the screen. And with that, I am going to now remove that. My YouTube channel is easy. It's just my name, Tommy Hensel, all one word. I'm going to remove that and move over here so that I can actually sign off for the day. Unless there are any questions. I'm looking for comments to see if anyone has any questions for me. My computer's over here, obviously. Nope, no questions right now. So thank you, everybody. If you have questions, please send them to me on Facebook or in a comment on YouTube, and I would be happy to try to answer them as best I can. So with that, I am now going to click a few buttons, and I will see you hopefully on Thirsty Thursday, and then again each Tuesday and Thursday for more handy tips on cooking, cocktails, and wine. So thank you, everyone.